Good. Thanks, Marie-Chantal.
Great, thanks. So I think I'm starting off, and Tim and I will flip back and forth during this short presentation. But just to start, as Marie-Chantal mentioned, the federal government is developing a blue economy strategy. And so the Fisheries Council of Canada, which is what I represent, we represent the wild side of the business. So wild capture, fish processors and harvesters. Tim represents the aquaculture side. Our two national trade associations came together to develop our view of the blue economy strategy. And we put together a report that we're happy to share with you afterwards. And we'll just give you the highlights. But we submitted this to the government to feed into their thinking of what they want to develop as a blue economy strategy. So Tim, you can flick the next slide, I think.
Or Daniel.
Oh, there we go. So in terms of, why is this important? Some numbers kind of speak for themselves. Over 70% of the earth is covered by the oceans, yet we only resource 3% of our food from the ocean. So there's a very large untapped resource that for us to realize better from, obviously sustainably. The demand for seafood globally is expected to grow by 7 to 10%. So clearly there is demand growth. People want more fish and seafood. As populations become more affluent around the world, they want more proteins, and they want more proteins from the ocean. So how can we from Canada seize some of that growth potential? Daniel, if you can click. So looking globally at seafood production, whether it be farmed or wild, this is a graph from the Food and Agriculture Organization, part of the UN. You can see that for us on the wild side, we've kind of tapped out. We're at a sustainable level, and going forward, we expect to see some modest decline around globally. Obviously, each jurisdiction is going to be in a different space. In Canada, we are quite sustainable. We are going to have some challenges because of climate change, but we'll also have some benefits, I think, and overall that'll probably just stay quite stable. On the aquaculture side, though, there's a lot of growth potential, not just in value, which we expect because of growing demand. Apologize if you're hearing sirens in the background. I'm in downtown Ottawa, and I guess something is not going right. But anyway, on the aquaculture side, they expect to see growth not only in value like we do, but also volume. And so globally, there will be an increasing percentage of seafood proteins that are going to be coming from the aquaculture side. And so that's an important sort of global context for us to consider. And Daniel, you can click, and I think Tim's going to take the next few slides.
Hi, everyone. So thanks, Paul, and thanks to NRC for hosting this. Really good to hear about the initiative and to be in touch and to work together on this. So one of the initiatives over the last number of years that has come up and has been very exciting is the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy. I hope many of you know about this, but it's really 14 nations that came together, initiated by Norway, and our Prime Minister is one of the signatories. And really, they're looking at ways to really move the blue economy agenda forward globally. And they've done some excellent research and work, and in the last year and a half or 2 years, expert papers have been produced. And what I'm going to do in the next couple of slides is just highlight some of the key things that I think are really critical for, for our initiative around developing Canada's blue economy potential. Next slide, Daniel. So one of the findings was obviously the capacity. And of course, in Canada, we have this immense biophysical capacity with our oceans. You know, we have arguably the most capacity in the world as a country to develop our blue economy. We have pretty much flatlined for many years. On the aquaculture side, I'll just say for about 20 years, we have flatlined in terms of our production. And I think this is an indicator that we haven't embraced this opportunity, as Paul also said. So it is now time to move forward. And we know that the capacity of the ocean is equally as immense. And the indications from, I think, the high-level panel is that so much of the world's protein and demand for food as the global population increases can be met by ocean's protein. Next slide. So even a fraction from an environmental and sustainability perspective of an increase from the oceans will have, I think, very important positive impacts on carbon reduction in the food system. Again, on the aquaculture side, we know we're dealing with very low carbon footprint in terms of our production, and it's the same on the wild capture side. So this is a really important piece of, I think, the solution to the carbon challenge that we're facing. So, you know, increasing that production, embracing this as a sustainability solution and model as well is very important. And this has been sort of a central interest of the high-level panel. Next slide. One of the really interesting findings of the panel, and I think this will connect with everyone on this call, is that $1 invested has $10 of benefit in society. And they looked at ocean economy development in general, and it was 1 to 5. And then they looked at specifically production of ocean proteins, and the yield was $10. So obviously this focuses on health benefits, environmental benefits, and economic benefits. So there aren't too many opportunities, I think, in the world, especially in the food system, that have this sort of payback in terms of positive development. Next slide. I think I do this last one, Paul, and then I'll hand it back over to you. This is another key finding is in terms of employment, and as we're in this COVID period and we're thinking about how do we build back better, for lack of a better phrase, we know that we really are the opportunity in many remote coastal communities, both fishing and aquaculture, and certainly with aquaculture growth opportunities. This is where I think there's a certain opportunity, a real opportunity for growth of labor. So you can see how important our sector is in the broader ocean economy in terms of employment, and we believe there's that opportunity in Canada going forward as well. Paul, over to you for the next slide. Paul, hold on, you're on mute.
Thank you, Tim. Sorry about that. So as we've kind of alluded to, but to put it much more succinctly, you know, we really have not seized the opportunity in Canada. We have a lot of potential, as the numbers just indicated, at a global level, and we have not kept pace with many other jurisdictions. So we need to change that, and we need to seize the opportunity. And really, there's no better time than the present. Obviously, the federal government is interested and wants to advance our industry and the broader ocean economy. So we need to take advantage of that. Daniel, if you can move to the next slide. So what we, as I said at the beginning, we've come together on the National Trade Associations for both the wild and farm side to partner, to create a vision and an action plan to achieve our potential. So next slide, because I'll start getting into some of the higher details. So we've looked at we wanted to look long term. So we're targeting 2040. And so 20 years to make fundamental change in how we look at our industry, how we embrace our industry as Canadians, and obviously with the government policies that relate to us. We want to seize the podium, so to speak. We want Canada to be global top 3 best sustainable fish and seafood producer. We're not going to be the largest. Those days are long gone. But we want to be in the top 3 of the best and most sustainable. And we've got a very strong platform and foundation already set in terms of sustainability. We've got on the wild side a strong regulatory fisheries management regime. We're one of the leaders in the world on certification. And on the farm side, very similar, strong regulatory, strong adoption of sustainability or certification. So we've got the right pieces of the foundation to get there. Daniel, if you can click the slide, please. And to put a little bit more meat around, well, what do we mean, or what are the benefits of this strategy? And we've got 3 ambitious, to say the least, aspirational goals. We want to double the value of Canadian seafood. And we think if we work hard enough together, we can get there. We want to double the economic benefits to Canada from the industry. And most importantly, certainly emotionally, is we want to double the consumption of fish and seafood among Canadians, and Canadian fish and seafood. Not that many people realize that 70 to 80% of the domestic market is actually imported product. So when we go to the grocery store, we're largely looking at domestic or imported product rather than domestic, and we'd like to change that, get people to eat more fish and seafood, because we're only eating about half of what the recommended amount is from Health Canada and Global Health Organization. So if we all ate more fish and seafood, we'd probably be healthier for it, and our coastal economies and communities would be stronger as well. So Dan, you can flip to the next slide, and then Tim's going to take it home from here. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Paul. The final slide that we just wanted to share with you is really the actions that we have identified to get to reaching the vision and the goals. The first one, and I think this is an important discussion piece for today's workshop, is we are in this situation where we are governed by a Department of Fisheries and Oceans in Ottawa that is principally a regulator, and we do not have a department like other countries, like Norway, for instance. Norway's sort of lead department is the Department of Trade and Fisheries and economic. So there's a very strong economic focus. The Government of Canada has to identify a department, whether it's DFO or another department, to really drive and embrace our sector's opportunity and our economic development. So that's critical. And of course, technology plays an important role in that. But we need that kind of coordinating economic function to really drive us forward. And we are mixed. It's this confusion. Is DFO really a regulator? Is it does it drive the development of the sector? This is something that needs to be clarified as soon as possible. The second one is within the department. You see in other countries, you see a sort of section or agency that is mandated to very specifically drive the development of the sector. So whether it's a seafood development agency, an aquaculture agency is another interest. But for us, broadly speaking, just talking about the growth of the seafood sector, that kind of organization can be very, very helpful. And we think that that's something the government has to look at very, very carefully. Of course, having a plan and planning is critical to reach goals. And so we advocate for 5-year action plans for the seafood sector emerging out of the structural change, so that we can really measure where we're going, how we're doing. And part of that, I think, is you know, at the much more detailed level and talking about tech development. Fourth, one of the opportunities that's being looked at very carefully is both marine-based planning, whether it's ecosystem-based, area-based. The federal government is looking at conservation areas very aggressively, you know, 25% by 2025 and 30% by 2030. Part of this is identifying those areas where seafood development can occur. We need that certainty for longer term development, and we need that clarified as soon as possible. Fifth is something that the aquaculture sector, many of you have probably heard this, that we've been asking for about 25 years, is a standalone Aquaculture Act that governs the sector. The Fisheries Act was not created for you know, a farming and growth-oriented sector, so we need our own standing act, and that's we're moving forward on that. We're seeing some movement, and we have consultations right now from the federal government that we're engaged in at the moment. Finally, the new Fisheries Act and the regulations coming out of that act, those need to be finalized as soon as possible, again, to provide clarity, and I think to provide a platform for innovation. So that's our presentation. Wanted to just again thank NRC and you know, for this opportunity, and I look forward to the discussion. You'll see that technology is not a specific call out in our actions, but it's certainly embedded, and we see it as a critical piece going forward. So thank you to everyone. Look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, both Tim and Paul. Yes, I like this presentation quite a bit, and I think that it's a really great thing for us to hang our hats on, or our fishing boots, whatever you hang. I appreciate the vision, and it does actually. I just want to say, from an R&D and an innovation perspective, wherever you see the word growth, there is by definition going to be some innovation that needs to happen there. And so even if we're looking at fishing wild caught going down, as we saw in that graph, the technology is necessary to keep the margins up and to keep people in employment. So that's one of the things we found when we looked at the economy writ large from a blue economy perspective, was that fishing and aquaculture, less so aquaculture, but fishing is the largest ocean economy in Canada. So making sure that there are no losses there, or transitioning them to another type of or farmed aquaculture, requires innovation, technology, research, and the like. So I just wanted to say, excellent presentation. If you have any questions, please ask Tim and Paul right now. Otherwise, we will go into our breakout session.